SEC visit weekend in Oklahoma. We're going to get to that in a minute. But Steve, 25-15, Tennessee does what we thought they would do. A dominating fashion. It was a 10-point game, but I felt like Tennessee kind of controlled this from start to finish.
Yeah, the Vols came into this ball game with the nation's number 2 offense, number 1 scoring offense, nation's number 2 defense, number 3 scoring defense. They look championship caliber. It is hard to go on the road at night in prime time and get a victory. And Tennessee dominated that game from start to finish. Nico Iamaleava looks like a candidate to be the first pick in the NFL draft. Tim Banks looks like the hottest assistant coach name in college football right now, Tennessee's defensive coordinator. The Vols are rolling, have the nation's number 7 recruiting class right now in 2025. They have Faison Brandon, the number 1 quarterback in the country, committed in 2026. No one recruiting high school quarterbacks better than Josh Heupel and company. They've obviously the defensive recruiting over the first several cycles, a lot of guys with length, upside, versatility, all coming together for Tennessee right now, destroying Oklahoma on the road at night. A great win for Josh Heupel and company.
Yeah, and we're going to get into some of this recruiting talk here in a minute, but seeing Michael Hawkins take over for the former 5-star Jackson Arnold from 2 cycles ago, Michael Hawkins, the true freshman. I mean, I'm not going to downplay the Michael Hawkins take, but I mean, Jackson Arnold the year before, that was the prize. He has 3 turnovers. We see Michael Hawkins, who you and I were covering. He was playing high school football last year at this time. Insert Michael Hawkins. He kind of got it done for the Sooners. We're gonna take a poll here. Trey, are we able to do the poll? All right. Before me and Steve talk about this, you guys take out your phones. Put it up here. Put up the QR code. Who should start at quarterback for Oklahoma? Is it going to be Michael Hawkins moving forward, or should it be Jackson Arnold moving forward? Me and Steve are going to get into it. You guys go vote. This will be live. We're going to show your consensus here when it's over. But Steve, Michael Hawkins looked pretty dang good.
Well, he looked like the moment wasn't too big for him. He was very competitive. Showed a lot of toughness in this ball game, obviously getting flipped upside down, trying to go into the end zone there in the fourth quarter. Played hard till the final whistle. Look, Oklahoma played hard till the final whistle. Their defense played well, in my opinion. But look, Oklahoma, they were a top 5 offense last year. Obviously, their coordinator's at Mississippi State, but their quarterback is at Oregon, Dylan Gabriel. And I understand that when Jackson Arnold was recruited, there were a lot of offensive coordinators and head coaches that had him as the number 1 quarterback recruit on their boards. And they obviously saw enough from Jackson Arnold behind the scenes to believe in him as being the future of this program. But in my opinion, you don't mess with success that you had with Dylan Gabriel, and you do what you can to keep that young man in your program, no matter how talented the guys are behind him, because he is absolutely proven week in and week out. Oklahoma had the number 3 offense in college football last year, and I think they would have loved to have had Dylan Gabriel, a veteran who's played in a lot of college football games, on the field tonight against Tennessee. And I think that when Dylan Gabriel went in the portal, I don't think there was much worry in Knoxville about that. And look, it's kind of, Arch Manning, maybe he's better than Quinn Ewers right now, but Quinn Ewers is working. He went to the college football playoff last year. You have the number 1 team in the country this year. You don't mess with that. And Oklahoma, they had one of the best quarterbacks in college football last year. And I don't think there was much worry when he went in the portal, thinking that you had Jackson Arnold ready to take the ship on. And Oklahoma's got a lot of these games in the SEC this year.
Oklahoma wasn't thinking when they got rid of Dylan Gabriel, when they let him walk, they weren't thinking like, oh, we got Michael Hawkins. They were thinking, oh, we got Jackson Arnold. And, Jackson Arnold, the offense just didn't look very in sync. He looked rattled. He didn't look confident. And one of the things that we loved about Jackson Arnold in high school was his confidence, was his ability to just strike vertically at any time from any place, anywhere. And he just looks out of rhythm. Michael Hawkins got in, and coming in middle of the late second quarter before half, it's not ideal. Your team's already down. They're not playing well, and he kind of provided a spark. So I don't know if that is something that they're also seeing in practice, and that's why they stuck with him. I was a little surprised that Jackson Arnold wasn't injured and still sat out the entire second half.
Look, Jackson Arnold's not defined by one game against a
Right.
team that is playing as well as any program in the country right now. I think if you were looking, say, which teams are playing the best right now, you would say Texas, and then you would say Tennessee, and you wouldn't be wrong with either answer, in my opinion. So Tennessee's impressive, and Jackson Arnold's going to have a lot of time and a lot of opportunity to bounce back from this game. And he was the best quarterback at the Elite 11 finals, in my opinion, the year he was there. Again, college programs had him number one on the board. Had a fantastic high school football career down there at Denton Guyer, playing big boy football, playing against great defenses, against great high school coaches. It just wasn't his night tonight. I still think he's the future of the Oklahoma football program. My original point is, though, that you had your guy. He had eligibility. And I know that these quarterbacks get pricey, but you're a program that's won national championships in our lifetime, Josh, and you should be able to pay the vig for a quarterback like that to keep them in your program. And if your depth chart at that position costs more than some other programs, that's a good problem to have, in my opinion. That means you got some very talented guys in the room, guys that you believe in. And I just think having a Dylan Gabriel in a game tonight like that, he's been in those wars and would have been huge for Oklahoma. Look, there's a 12-team playoff. Oklahoma can come back from this ball game, and everything's still in front of them that they're shooting for this season. But they didn't have a veteran quarterback tonight, and it showed.
All right. You guys keep voting. Let's see. They think that Jackson Arnold should continue to be the starter based on the poll. You guys scan the QR code and vote on who you think should start at quarterback for Oklahoma moving forward. All right, let's talk a little Tennessee recruiting and how this win, the 25-15 win over Oklahoma, is going to impact Tennessee recruiting. The polls are already surging. But now with this win over Oklahoma, they kind of are what we think they are, Steve. Tennessee is for real. They just go on the road. They dominate Oklahoma. I know it's only a 10-point win, but it was really in dominating fashion. So what do you think the recruiting impact could be for Tennessee moving forward?
Well, I think you start with Isaiah Campbell, on 300 defensive lineman who decommitted from Clemson earlier today. Chad Simmons with the news that he has upcoming trips to Tennessee and North Carolina. But behind the scenes, the Vols have been in a great position for a while. There was talk that he was going to visit Knoxville earlier this summer. Now, Dabo Swinney has that strict no visit clause. So Tennessee's been working this one for a while. I like the way that one's trending for him. He certainly has to like what he sees from this Tennessee defense. Tim Banks, Rodney Garner, and his track record. I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing that on-3 RPM start going the checkered oranges way, especially after North Carolina gave up a 70 spot today. Now, maybe he could sit there and look and say, North Carolina really needs me, but they've had their struggles. And they've had their struggles every year, the Mac Brown era, losing games like this one after getting some big wins early in the year. So I like the way that one's trending for Tennessee right now as they put the finishing touches on this class. I think they could try and find another linebacker in this cycle. I know they want another running back as well. But this class is nearly finished already. It's got 24 commitments. Ranked number 7 nationally. Now they're in a battle to keep Douglas Utu in the fold. Chad Simmons and I both predicted him to flip to Oregon this week. That's still a work in progress, but certainly started to seem like it was going Oregon's way. Oregon really ramped it up after David Sanders committed to Tennessee. Oregon recruiting him as a tackle, I think, is another element that's really helping the Ducks in that recruitment. But Tennessee, phenomenal receiver, tight end class, best tight end class in the country collectively. One of the best pass catching classes in the country. Travis Smith Jr. is having a fantastic senior season, and then Raydarius Jackson's one of my favorite players headed to the SEC. So. And then they landed guys like Christian Gass, who can play championship level football. They're beating Georgia on the recruiting trail, beating the programs they're trying to beat on the field, on the trail. And they've done that the whole Josh Heupel era, and now it's starting to pay off.
Yeah, and we're
really
seeing guys like a George McIntyre, a David Sanders, a Travis Smith. I mean, they got to be watching this game and getting excited. And I know, right now Tennessee might be losing Douglas Utu, their second highest rated commitment, but we're going to talk more about some of these other teams that played today and how they're trying to hang on to what they've got. Tennessee keeps doing what they're doing right now. They're going to be very aggressive. I mean, they're not going to be one of these teams that just playing defense the whole fall and into the winter, trying to hold on to what they got. They're going to be able to get offensive, figuratively and literally, and go out and recruit some more great players to this roster. Like you said, they've won some battles against Georgia. They've won some battles against Alabama. There's really nobody out here on the recruiting trail that I think Tennessee's afraid of. And if they keep winning, that's going to do a lot for recruiting. So sitting outside the top 5 right now, Douglas Utu on flip watch, but Tennessee's still got a lot going for them. And, I think you look at a George McIntyre, like you said, Steve, nobody's been recruiting the quarterback position better than Josh Heupel, and you're seeing it now on the field. And when recruits see this, they jump on board. It's that simple.
2 years ago, Tennessee won 11 games. That was the first time that they won double-digit football games since 2007. The way that they're recruiting right now, they're poised to be a double-digit winner annually moving forward and competing for championships. Again, they got their guys under center. That's the most important position to hit. And then I think they're showing that they can really develop their players, strength and conditioning wise, and then on defense. So you look at a guy like Marion Dye in this class for Tennessee. He is 6'4" and 3/4, 268 pounds with outstanding length. There is not a prettier player in the country than the number 1 ranked prospect in the Hoosier State. But when he steps on Tennessee's campus, he is not going to be an instant impact player. He's still got a long way to go as a football player, but he's got the traits, he's got the size, and you see the way that this Tennessee defense is playing, and you think about Marion Dye a few years down the road within the system, and you think special player that can go toe-to-toe with the Alabamas and the Georgias. And it's wins like this that keep it rolling. They're the primetime game. It's the one that people in the country are watching tonight. They go into Oklahoma, the first ever SEC contest for the Sooners. ESPN College Game Days there. It's a loaded recruit section, including 2026 running back Caden Jones. He's the number 1 ranked player in Oklahoma. Before the game, he told me, I could see myself playing at both schools. So Tennessee, one of the schools at the top of his list. He just watched the Vols dominate Oklahoma inside the Sooner Stadium. And so it was a statement win for them. But the SEC, it's a rugged schedule. Tennessee's got some big games coming up down the road, but one thing's for sure, they absolutely look ready to play in them. And with the way they're recruiting, they look ready to play in these games for many years down the road.
All right, let's bring in Hayes Fawcett. We got Hayes. Let's bring in Hayes. Hayes, Tennessee's had some big wins. You heard us talk about it. Anything from your vantage point? I mean, during the George McIntyre recruitment, David Sanders, maybe that was probably one of the biggest ones, but take us behind the scenes of Tennessee recruiting.
Man, so as we've said, Tennessee's definitely recruiting with some of the best in the country right now. They have the number 7 class in the 2025 on 3 rankings, and obviously that's headlined by 5-star plus offensive tackle David Sanders and elite 2025 quarterback George McIntyre. Now, George McIntyre is one that I definitely had a lot of conversations with behind the scenes. And, I'm sure both of y'all remember early in his process, Alabama was a team that was definitely trending. But, after talking with him and, really getting a better understanding of his recruitment, Tennessee really was always a school for him. He kind of, played it a little bit like he was going to potentially end up at Alabama. But yeah, like I said, Tennessee definitely stood out to him. And it was kind of the same predicament with David Sanders as well. So, having those two guys lead the class, huge for the Vols.
Yeah.
Look, I look at this.
Steve.
Yeah, I look at this Tennessee class. David Sanders Jr. at one point early in his process, I might have said Georgia was the leader. I'm talking way early. I mean, he started getting recruited in 8th grade, but you beat Georgia for him. George McIntyre, him and Bryce Underwood were the two quarterbacks in this class that really could have went anywhere they wanted, whenever they wanted. Like Bryce Underwood's at LSU, but if George McIntyre would have called LSU first, he could have went there. He could have went to Clemson first. He could have went to Alabama first. So him and Bryce Underwood were kind of the two most coveted quarterbacks in the country. Laganza Shady Hayward is a top 100 safety from the Peach State that took an official visit to Georgia and gave a lot of indication that he was going to end up a Bulldog, but ends up at Tennessee. Tennessee's the program that led the most for him, but they were able to navigate that road, absorb a Georgia official visit, and bring it back full circle and get him in the fold. Travis Smith, you beat Georgia and Alabama for him. Jaden Harmon, you flip him from Alabama. Clemson was heavily involved. So these are heavyweight recruiting battles. And then you also keep guys like Radarius Jackson in state, who's an instant impact receiver in my mind. Christian Gash, you beat Georgia for him. These are all heavyweight recruiting battles. Deshaun Brame, you flip him from Oregon. Hayes, in your opinion, talking to these guys behind the scenes, which one of these was the most impressive recruiting win for Tennessee?
Man, in my opinion, obviously the David Sanders one was huge, but when it comes to like biggest back and forth, that was obviously Deshaun Brame. I remember going into the day before his announcement, he had went back and forth between Tennessee and Oregon probably 4 times. I remember he told me it was going to be Oregon, and then the next morning, whenever he was going to commit, he told me Tennessee, and then the next, hour before he was going to announce, he eventually told me it was going to be Oregon. And after having conversations with him after that first initial commitment, I knew that Tennessee was going to, continue to recruit him hard, and he was going to continue to listen. And, obviously he ended up flipping from Oregon to Tennessee. And, like you said, Steve, at the beginning of the segment, Tennessee definitely, if not the best, tight end class alongside the receiver class. You have Travis Smith, Deshaun Brame, guys like that. It's just very impressive group.
Yeah. And I think, this all comes together because George McIntyre jumps on board in February. He's kind of been the Pied Piper of this class. You talked to David Sanders throughout the spring. It was, I'm going to Tennessee to hang out with George. It was every top recruit. I'm going to Knoxville to hang out with George. He was on campus every big visit weekend. So you get your quarterback, especially when he lives local in Nashville, and he makes it on campus for every big visit weekend. He's the face that every top recruit sees besides Josh Heupel. And I think that's a big reason why Tennessee's class is where it is right now, because George McIntyre set the tone.
Hayes, you had the big news today. Isaiah Campbell decommitting from Clemson. You and Chad Simmons out in front of that one. Major recruit target for Tennessee, number 3 defensive lineman in America. Behind the scenes, there's been a lot of smoke that Tennessee was involved. How long was he talking to you about a potential decommitment from Clemson?
Well, in terms of the decommitment, I really didn't, hear much about it. I did hear, not directly from him, but from a source that, there was probably a decommitment coming. However, after, going off of what our colleague Chad Simmons said, he's going to be visiting Tennessee and North Carolina, and I'm planning on reaching out to him soon and trying to get, a more, in-depth list of schools if he does continue to, plan on visiting other schools. So I'm going to check in on that and see where that's going. But, yeah.
All right. Let's check in on the poll. Can we check in on the poll one more time before we get out of here? Do you guys want Jackson Arnold? Do you want Michael Hawkins? It's going to be a debate that's talked about all week on Oklahoma message boards.
Not a debate here.
I'm sure it's already going crazy over there. The fans think Jackson Arnold. They want to see the former 5-star have another shot. We'll see what happens here. Jackson Arnold, though, was benched. He was benched for the entire second half of this game. Michael Hawkins came in, provided a spark. A lot of recruits a lot of committed Oklahoma players on campus this weekend. So go over to Soonerscoop.com. They're going to have stuff all weekend coming from this game. Big game. First, they dip their toes in the SEC water, did Oklahoma, and they get dominated by Tennessee. It's okay. I think people, for the most part, expected this sort of outcome. We're going to see what happens this week with Jackson Arnold, Michael Hawkins. It's going to be a whole storyline. Steve, any final thoughts on Tennessee, Oklahoma?
Yeah, Oklahoma's defense played well tonight. I mean, Tennessee came into the ball game averaging 640 yards of offense, and they got 345 tonight. It just, the score was never in doubt because you never felt like Oklahoma was going to sustain enough drives to win the ball game.
Mm-hmm.
But their defense played well against one of the best offenses in the country. Recruits on campus saw a fantastic atmosphere, a program that's ready to compete with some of the best teams in the country, because that's what Tennessee certainly is. And this is a really good Oklahoma recruiting class that ranks 11th nationally per On3, one of the better offensive line hauls in the land. They got a couple really talented safeties in the fold as well. And they got a lot of young quarterbacks on the roster that look capable, that have showed flashes now in their time in Norman. Just wasn't their night tonight. Yeah. It was Tennessee's night. The Vols are rolling along right now here as their season continues, 4-0 and boasting a terrific offense and maybe even a better defense, which is weird to say about a Josh Heupel-led team. But the Vols defense once again rose to the occasion and was dominant again tonight.
All right, Tennessee, Oklahoma fans, talk to us. Let us know. Comment section below. How are we feeling about this game? What does it mean for the rest of the season? And how does it impact recruiting? You guys talk to us. Let us know. Comment section below.